Okay, part two, because the government interrupted me with some kind of Amber Alert or something, but or some kind of weird storm or Amber or whatever alert. So back to where I was saying, it's part two of Monopoly Junior Dino Dig. We're on the cards, the different dinosaur cards here. I'm going to try to debunk them. First of all, first thing I said was, without proper observation of an animal, you can't know whether it is an omnivore, herbivore, or carnivore. You can make generalized assumptions and guessing at work based on the skeletal structures, which they don't have any complete skeletons of any of the dinosaurs. They do have a few, but hardly any. So that's the first debunking thing that I said I was going to do. Second thing that I've just debunked was, again, since they don't have that many complete skeletons, they have to make them based off of like a few pieces, which is basically trying to put a 10,000 puzzle piece together, say with less than 1,000 pieces. And then they have found, I don't know if they call them dinosaurs or supposedly prehistorical creatures that they have found that still were frozen in time enough to be able for them to still be able to test the DNA and find blood and skin. I don't know how that's even possible if supposedly these creatures are millions of years old. They cannot be millions of years old if any of that stuff is still existing. If one science is not supporting another science, it's just you're just making up some bullshit crap, okay? Without you have to have all the sciences agreeing. And if you find what they are calling living fossils now, which couldn't live based for millions of years, they have to be younger because it just doesn't fit the other sciences that already exist. But again, like I said, they're put together dinosaurs based on a few skeletal remains, not having that many complete literal complete things. Then they also put together, they assume. Now, one thing that they do usually have are skulls. They have skulls. The skulls let them assume and make a generalized idea that this dinosaur may have been meat eater, plant eater, or both. And they base that on current actual meat eater, plant eaters, and both that exist right now. So they take a skull of a dinosaur, they look at it, and they go, well, this skull looks like this current animal that exists. Well, so question is, could it possibly be the animal that currently exists, but just in a bigger form? Well, that would disagree with their billions and millions of year old Earth idea and evolution and all this other stuff. So they're not going to assume that. They're going to go, well, maybe it ate like this animal that exists now. And because it has the same type of skull, same type of mouth, same type of eyes, and a head, the different things. besides, now they're even claiming dinosaurs are related to birds and that they may have had feathers. It used to be they were like reptiles. Now, maybe they're birds and they may have had feathers. See, the fact that they're changing things means they didn't know what they were talking about to begin with. So, okay, I've debunked that idea of whether they're a carnivore, herbivore, or... Now, again, these suborders can... We can't know what suborder they were, or can't even know what order they were. Now, the only thing that seems to be accurate on this list would be where they found the fossil. Fossils found. So they found this, say, found creatures like this. This would be the... Supposedly this is the egg thief. They assume that based off of, I think, the hands and the mouth, which is probably close to the only things they found. They assume, based on what the animal potentially looks like, where it may or may not have lived. They don't actually know. So this habitat, again, without actually actively observing the dinosaur in its actual habitat, you cannot know what type of habitat it actually had without observing an actual animal in the wild. You cannot know what type of habitat it actually had. So, again, what it ate is debunked. What kind of order it is debunked, because you can't have orders of stuff that we've never seen. You can't classify something if you've never seen its existence in person. You cannot do that. You can't determine what kind of habitat it was without making an assumption that the time period that you assign it to had that type of habitat in that type of area. In this case, Mongolia. The only thing that is accurate, completely accurate on here, would probably be the fossil of where it was found in Mongolia. Now, this part right here might be correct. That it was small, walked upright. If they have, like, the legs and the arms and the head and a few other things, and they can kind of build this puzzle together with what they have, these are what they're assuming based on the puzzle pieces they have to build that dinosaur. So this is what they believe based on what they have. Based on the evidence they have, they put this theory together. These are not any of this. All this right here is theory, except the fossil found. Because again, like I just said, you cannot truly accurately make facts and truth on an animal if you cannot accurately observe said animal in the wild in its natural habitat. Without that, you cannot. None of this can exist, because supposedly these dinosaurs existed pre-man. If they existed pre-man, man couldn't have observed them, and thus we cannot make a good thing on them. All of it would be assumption. They can make good assumptions based on the information they have, the skeleton, which usually they don't have a complete skeleton, so there's that. So they have to then take the pieces of the skeleton they do have and try to build the rest of the dinosaur based on what they do have. Then after they build that dinosaur, they have to try to build how it would have looked. Then they have to, base what they would assume it ate and what type of habitat it would have lived in based on what it may or may not have looked, based on the pieces of the puzzle that they built. It's all built on a building block. Everything's built on say something like this. Okay, that's what they have. So now they have to build a whole entire dinosaur off of that. That's what I'm getting at. Not only have to build the dinosaurs, they have to build the idea of what it may or may not have ate, which they base on what creatures that of today may do or do not eat. Based on what the animal may or may not have looked like, based on the parts they have, like maybe one foot or a part of the foot, maybe one arm or hand or part of the arm or hand, maybe the skull or part of the skull, because sometimes they only have partial skulls. They might only have one half of the skull, so they have to like assume the other half would look like that half, which is a good assumption. Now, I'm not saying that these assumptions are wrong. I just would like the paleontologists to admit that like 90% of the whole entire idea of dinosaurs is basically theoretical assumptions of what dinosaurs probably are, based off of an inaccurate type of dating and an inaccurate fossil record that has no real scientific backing, and also based off of current animals, because that's the only thing they have to back what they say. So this one, again, they can't know any of this. Again, the only thing they can know is it's been type of fossils for this one has been found in South Africa and Central Europe. I literally basically just debunked everything. Some of this right here probably is true based on what they found, and I've already explained to you how they determined that. This one they found in North America, specifically Alberta, Montana, New Mexico, and Utah. So it's hanging out with the Mormons. This one they've also found in North America, specifically New Mexico, Connecticut, Utah, and Arizona, out in the Midwest. The only thing they really get right is the name. They base the name usually off of the head. Look at how these names are based off of like this one's based on egg thief. How do they know that? Because its head looks like it would eat eggs. This one's called flat lizard. How do they know it's a flat lizard? Because that's what they assumed it looked like. This one's, you see how these names, hollow bone, because the bones of that they found were hollow. Again, thick-headed lizard, because the head of this animal that they found was thick-headed. See, they basically based this whole dinosaur mostly on its head. That's what I'm getting at, how they base these dinosaurs. This one's called different tooth. Why is it called different tooth? Because the first time they found this one, its teeth were weird compared to anything else. That's basically, so that's how they based it. This one was found in South Africa. And if you look at a lot of the pictures of these dinosaurs, they look like they could possibly be the same dinosaur. But the fact that they weren't found in the same area or in the same theoretical time period is why they're a different type of dinosaur. They found this one in the North America and Africa, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Alberta, and Tanzania. This one is everybody's favorite, the Philosoraptor, which they've done a bunch of assuming about this one when they've only found fossils in China and Mongolia. Now, I wonder if they happen to have this one here. Huh. Interesting. They're not telling us something, but a skull of something like this one is also called a Chinese, was found in China. See, they're intentionally doing some misinformation with where they're saying they found the fossils, because this one's also been found in China, and its head, they have a skull. They have a little skull. It's another thing they're misleading is how big these dinosaurs were. Some of these dinosaurs are actually smaller than they look like they are on images like this picture here, for example. They're making them look bigger than they actually are. But anyway, what I was getting at here for a moment here is this dinosaur, skull of this dinosaur was found in China, and some other bones too. And fun fact, it was named the Chinese dragon. Another fun fact is that in China, they had imperial dragon tamers. These creatures were owned by the Chinese royalty in ancient China, proving historical documents of Chinese dragon tamers and that Chinese imperials owned dragons as pets. If that's not the proof you need, I don't know what kind of proof you need to prove that dinosaurs and humans existed at the same time. Especially since the fact that you, one, found Philosoraptors and Ankylosaurus bones in China, and there's literally historical documents that say that the Chinese emperors and Mongolian rulers and whatnot literally had dragon trainers and tamers. And now you literally kept them as pets and used them to help them build stuff. What other proof do you freaking need? Again. So maybe if we would just admit they existed at the same time as humans, because we have a whole bunch of evidence proving it, historical documentations, both myth, legend, and writings upon writings upon writings of documented cases of seen, found dinosaurs, like where is it? Like this one, out in Africa and South America, Mahaba membrane. They showed pictures of this one right here to some ancient tribes that have never seen modern day stuff, and they told them that was Mahama membrane. I think it was South America. See, they're intentionally not giving you the whole truth of every single place they found these type of animals. See, so I'm debunking that part too. Shoot, what other animal did they find? Back to that one. This one. They've seen this one. People, historical cases of that one. Raptors and stuff, or animals that look like raptors have been seen in person. See this one right here and this one. They look exactly the same. Why are they not the same dinosaur? I'll tell you why. Cretaceous, Jurassic. Because they're not in the same time period. Basically, it's complete other bullshit. The T-Rex, supposedly found in southwestern U.S. and Canada. Just because they have found different bones from different sizes, and that's why they assume these. And plus, there's other animals that look like T-Rex. or dinosaurs. Elephant jaw. Okay, they call this thing elephant jaw, meaning when they saw its jaw, it reminded them of a jaw of an elephant. How do they not know that it wasn't actually just an elephant's jaw? A baby elephant. You see how they assume? This is one of the first ones, and they call it Tyrant Lizard King. That's what the word means. This is Deceptive Lizard. Deceptive Lizard. They call this one Deceptive Lizard because it deceived them when they first tried to figure out what it was. This one they called Stiff Lizard because they thought all these dinosaurs were lizards at first. And that one they called Stiff because, like, all the bones and everything they found about it was like they were thick. They were stiff. Then we got Triceratops. And it just means three-headed face. That's all the word Triceratops means. It's three-headed face. Because they saw this weird skull and it had these three... It had three horns. Three-horn face. Not three-headed. Three-horn face. My bad. But anyway, again... And the Stegosaurus, they called it roof lizard because the scales, because that was the first thing they found on the Stegosaurus, was the scales, right? So the scales, and supposedly it was in North America. Again, they're not telling us everywhere these are found. Just they're telling us a lot are found in the United States because this game is basically a United States, catered to the United States. Catered to the kids, children, try to indoctrinate them from the United States. But the first thing they found of the Stegosaurus were these giant spikes and scales that are on the top of them. So that's the very first bones they found, which in some cases maybe that is the only bones they find, which again, couldn't those be just rocks? Do they have to be bones? They could have just been rocks. Petrified rocks, or petrified wood, or petrified something. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a dinosaur if that's all you found. But the scales was the first thing they found, right? Those top scales. And those were, they reminded them of roof planks that people used to put on the roof. You know, they used to make roof planks out of like stones and different things, and that's why they called it roof lizard. See? They name it based on stuff like that. Then we have, this one was in Alberta, Canada. This one was named Ostrich Mimic because everything they found about it reminded them of an ostrich, except for the fact that it was in not the time period we have ostriches of today, which is BS. Maybe it was. This thing is probably just an ostrich, just ostrich bones. If they would just admit that dinosaurs lived at the time of humans.
I'm going to get your mom.
And they would just admit that the fossil record is bullshit. Shh. Just admit it. Stop lying and admit. Tell the truth. Admit it. If the scientists would just quit lying and admit the truth, it would be fine. They don't want to admit the truth because it destroys their narrative of evolution and millions of years old Earth, and that men aren't created by God and stuff. It literally destroys all that. The whole entire idea of dinosaurs is that they had to exist before man, before all this stuff now, because if they don't, the Earth can't be millions of years old. We have to admit that maybe the Earth's younger than we thought, and that the dinosaurs and humans existed at the same time, and maybe there's still some dinosaurs running around today, and oh wait, that means that the creation theory is more plausible than our theory of evolution and old Earth and millions of years and this and million years of that. And maybe it would help figure out how, you know, some of these ancient monolithic structures were built and moved if we assume dinosaurs instead of freaking aliens. Just the idea of aliens is just preposterous. Now, I will admit, maybe fallen angels came around and helped with some brains. and probably helped them move things with dinosaurs and other large animals. This one's found in Argentina. It's called Huria lizard. Huria lizard. Again, just one thing that you need to do is whenever you find a name of a dinosaur, literally just see there's a Potosaurus. Literally figure out what the name of the dinosaur means. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Compsognathus. This could have been just a baby elephant. Again, some doofus is going to be like, well, what about the ears? You know that elephant's ears don't have any bones in them, so you know they don't even find human skeleton remains with ears because we don't have bones in our ears. They're nothing but cartilage. So anything that's nothing but cartilage would disintegrate. So maybe it could have been an actual elephant. Peclessophlosaurus. They call that because of the thick head. Heterodonatronsaurus. All because the teeth were shaped differently. All because the teeth. Ceratosaurus. Ceratosaurus. Philosoraptor. Coelophysis. Parasaurolophus. Plateosaurus. Oviraptor. Okay. Again, we have two raptors. Now, why do we have two different types of raptors? Here's a Velociraptor and an Oviraptor. Look at the raptor, the word raptor. This one says thief. This one says plunderer. Raptor. You have a whole group of creatures called raptors that are probably in the same family. The only difference, in this case, they got them right. They're both in Cretaceous time period. Coelophysis, Parasaurolophus. Again, two lophuses. A bunch of saurus, which means lizard. Plateosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Strophominus. Minus means mimic. Ostrich mimic. It looks like an ostrich. Do I have to literally keep going on and on and on how somebody who's not got any college education can literally and easily debunk some of these retarded ideas that they're coming. I'm using a simple thing called facts, logic, analytical reasoning, deduction to say everything that I'm saying. Now, there is a total possibility that everything that the scientists are doing or done is 100% right. But with all the different things I have said so far, to open up your brain to think, which is what real science does, think, why wouldn't you allow these lines of thinking and these lines of questioning to exist in your scientific communities, in your scientific research, in your scientific studies, in your scientific findings? Why do we have to assume the narrative that the fossil record and the Earth record is millions of years old? Why can't you allow scientists? Why can't you allow other sciences that debunk your theories to exist and be talked about? Scientists, when it comes to dinosaurs, why can't you allow the idea that other science disproves your science to disprove your science? Why can't you allow the idea, I mean, science is all about theories. But when you say certain theories, which I'm going to say that's what the Bible, young earth, creationism, all counts as theoretical science at the moment, because while there's a lot of evidence to support it to being accurate and true, probably more so than evolution, it also has to be took with a grain of faith too, on the grounds that it has to assume, which is a big theory, that there is a God that created Earth for man, kind of living. I mean, you have to have proof. You have to have faith. I mean, creation itself is evidence for God, but then you can't. You have to have faith in that. You really have to have faith. You have to have a lot of faith. You have to have a ton of faith. Because you want to believe nothing created everything, and that nothing was actually something, and that something was God. You have to have just as amount, if not equal or more faith, to assume in evolution, in ancient multi-billion years cosmic creation. Ancient billions, trillions, quadrillions of years cosmic Earth creationism through evolution and other forms of cosmic Earth creation. To do that, you also have to have faith. But you have to have faith that somehow nothing, not even God, created everything. At least with godly cosmic creationism, God created everything when He spoke. And we believe this based on the Bible. With atheistic, evolutionaristic, cosmic creationism, everything somehow created itself out of literally nothing, or out of a bang. A bang which had no catalyst to start it. And even if you assume that the catalyst was the the universe imploded in on itself, or exploded